Assalamualaikum everyone, this is Safiullah Sheikh from Alpha Learning, and today we will be solving O levels 4024 paper 1-2 of October November. Let's write our name real quick. That is Safiullah Sheikh, and let's move on to question number 1. So, question number 1 of this paper states that Ruth records the color of each 24 cars, and we are supposed to complete the frequency table, and that is supposed to be done with the help of tally. Now, what is tally? We will count all the numbers, all the colors of these cars. Let's say we're talking about blue, so blue 1, 2, and then we have 3, and we have 4 and 5. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth one is going to be a cross, so the frequency is going to be 5. All right, now gray, let's see gray. How many grays do we have? For gray, let's use a different color. Let's just use a gray color maybe. So for gray we have, where do we go? It's 1, 2, so let's do 1, 2, and then we have 3. That's about it. So we write the frequency 3. Let's move on to red. How many colors do we have for red? So 1, and then 2, and then 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then we have 4, and we have 5 and 6. So we do 4, 5, and 6. So we plug in 6 over here. Let's use silver. How many do we have for silver? For silver, we will be using this 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, this is going to be what? This is going to be 8. How many do we have for white? For white, we can say we have 1 and then 2. Is that it? I believe so. We just say 2, and let's count this for safety. So 8 plus 2, that is 10, 10 plus 6, that is 16, 16 plus 3, that is 19, 19 plus 5, 24. That seems to be correct. Now we're supposed to draw a bar chart to show the information on the table. How do we draw the bar chart? Let's do it real quick, right? In order to draw the bar chart, we may be needing this data, and let's move on. This is the data that we're supposed to draw, right? Over here. Now let's say we have blue. The frequency for blue was supposed to be 5. Let's number it real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we need like a maximum of 8 numbers. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we will be drawing bars. How do we draw bars? Let me do it real quick. We will be drawing a rectangle. For blue, it was supposed to be 5, so let's do it at 5. This is how it's going to look, something like this. All right, and then what do we need? We need for 3 as well, which is for gray. So for gray, we are going to draw it like this. The height is going to be 3, right? So the height is going to be 3. It's going to be something like this. For red, it's supposed to be 6. So for 6, it should be looking something like this. This is going to be 6 for red, and for silver, it's supposed to be 8. For silver, it's going to be 8. So we draw it in this manner. The height is supposed to be 8. And lastly, the white color is supposed to be 2. So this is how it should be, all right? Now these are going to be, this is going to be the bar chart, right? If you want, you can also write the frequencies at the top. It shouldn't matter much, but you can write it 5, 3, and then this was 6, and then this was 8, and then this was 2 as well. All right, that's how you're supposed to draw. Now one thing that you're supposed to note is that the gap, there should be certain gaps which should be equal, and the width of each bar should be same as well. It's very important for bar chart. Moving on. Question number 2 states that it should be 0.78 into 0 minus 0.2, which means we are going to subtract the two numbers. It may look a very difficult decimal, but trust me, it is not. What we're going to do is we are going to do 0.78 minus of 0.2, and we'd say that we add a 0, so it turns out easy for us. The 0 doesn't have much significance. So what 0.78 minus 0.20? That should be equivalent to 0.58. All right, because 78 minus 20 gives us 58, so we say this is going to be 0.58. 8. Moving on to the next part. The next part states we are supposed to multiply 8 and 5 but with a negative sign. So 8 and 5 gives us what? That gives us 40, and minus and minus, that should be a positive sign. So the answer should be plus 40, right? Moving on. It says question number 3, ABCD is a parallelogram where E is a point on AB and EC is equals to BC. It's a parallelogram. EC and BC should be equals. Now, since these lines are equal, we know that this is going to be isosceles triangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 180 minus 40. That gives us 140, and this 140 should be the sum for this angle and this angle. We divided with 2, so we get the answer as 70 and 70 each. Now we're supposed to find the value of x. What can we do? We can say that since this ABCD was a parallelogram, so we can say that sum of these angles should be 180. Which angles? The angle A and angle B should be 180 due to co-interior angles. So if you want to find that angle, we can say it's going to be what? It's going to be 180 minus 70. That gives us 110. So this angle is going to be 110. We can also find this angle. How can we find this angle? We can say that this angle can be calculated considering AB to be straight line of a parallelogram. So we can say 180 minus 60 plus 70. So that gives us 60 plus 70, that is 130. 180 minus 130 is 50 degrees. So this one is going to be 50 degrees. Now if you want to find x, we can say 110 plus 50 plus x is supposed to be 180, and the value for x is going to be 20 from here, right? Moving on. The next question says Petra thinks of a number. The number is a multiple of 7, and it further states that Petra says when I write my number correct to the nearest 10, it is 30. Now what are multiples of 7? Now multiples of 7 can be 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, and so on and so forth. But this number was rounded off to the nearest 10. That means these numbers, right? These were rounded off based on these values. So which would turn out to be 30? This would turn out to, if you round it off, this would become 40. If you round it off, this becomes 20. This is the number that would turn out to be 30 when rounded off to the nearest 10. Hence my answer is going to be 28. Let's solve question number 7. Now if you want to solve question number 7, we need to see that we are supposed to write this starting from the smallest, right? So we can say this is 0.8, this is 7 over 9. That gives us what? That gives us, we'll have a look at this in a moment. This would be 84.5, which can be written as 0.845, and then we can say 17 over 10 when divided with 2, it gives us what? It gives us 6, this should be 8.5 over 10, so that we can convert it easily, and this would become what? 0.85. all right, now how do we convert this? This would probably give us a recurring decimal, so 9 would come over here, 7 on the inner side, so it's going to be 7 divided by 9, and it cannot be divided, so hence we put a 0, and decimal we add a 0 over here as well, so that would give us what? 7 times 62, and that would leave us a remainder as well, so which is going to be 8, right? So that means it's going to be a number 0.7 and so on, right? So what is the smallest number? It's obviously 0.7 in terms of decimal, so we'd say 7 over 9. The next smaller number is going to be 0.8 itself. Write it in the actual form that the examiner is given. The next smaller number is going to be 85 or 0.84, right? So 0.84 is the smaller number, so we're going to say 84.5 percentage, and the last one is going to be 0.85. This is supposed to be with a percentage sign, all right? Now the next question states that we're supposed to solve 6x minus 3 is equals to 4x plus 9. So what is this? So 6x minus 4x gives us what? 6x minus 4x gives us 2x, and then it's going to be 9 plus 3 on the other side, and it's going to give us 2x is equals to 12, and the value for x is going to be what? 12 over 2. That gives us 6. The answer is going to be 6, all right? Moving on, question number 7 says write down the inequality represented on the number line. Now understand that this is a circle, hollow circle. Hollow circles are represented with inequalities without an equals to sign, either greater or lesser, since it states the numbers on the right hand side, which means 4, 5, 6. That states the numbers greater than 3. So we're going to write this as x is greater than 3. Had this been a solid dot, we would have used equals to as well. Now, if you're supposed to solve this inequality, we can say it should be x is less than equals to 7 plus 2, and the answer for this is going to be x is less than 9. All right, that's how you're going to write this part. Moving on, plot point A and point B are plotted on the grid. Write down the coordinates of point A. What are the coordinates of point A? It's very easy. We write the x-axis first and then the y-axis. It's going to be minus 2 and 1. That's how we are going to write it. It should be minus 2 and 1. ठीक है, फिर कहते हैं the coordinates of the point C are P and minus 1. The gradient of BC is minus 2. Find the value of P. Do we have the coordinates of V? Yes, we do. The examiner has given the coordinates of V right here. It's 4 and 3. 4 and 3. Do we have the coordinates of C? Yes, we do have the coordinates of C, which is going to be P and minus 1. The gradient of this is going to be minus 2. So what are we going to say? We are going to say y2 minus y1 is equals to x2 minus x1, that these numbers being subtracted and these numbers being subtracted together. So it is going to be minus 1 minus 3 upon P minus 4 should be equals to what? That should be equals to minus 2, the gradient. All right, y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. So this should be minus 4 is equals to minus 2 times P minus 4, and this would be minus 4 is equals to minus 2P plus 8, and this would be what? Minus 4 is equals to plus 8 would move on to that side. It would become minus 8. Minus 8 minus 4 is equals to minus 2P, and what we get is minus 12 is equals to minus 2P, and the value for P is going to be what? Minus 12 over 2, and that is going to be with a negative sign, hence the answer is going to be positive 6. Now, moving on, the next question states AB and BC are two sides of the parallelogram ABCD. Parallelogram ABCD. Find the coordinates of point D. How are we going to do this? Now we know A, we know B, we know the coordinate C as well. That is 6 and minus 1. The value for P was 6, so it should be 6 and minus 1. Have a look. A, B and 6 and minus 1 somewhere here is going to be point C. Now in order to draw a parallelogram, we can say it should be something of this sort where the two gradients are same. And if we have a look, this point A, B, C, and then we should be having D somewhere at this place. All right, so what we are going to see, we are going to have a look at the gradient, how to draw this, right? So we can say from B to C, we are going 1, 2, 3, and 4 blocks downwards. We are going 4 blocks downwards and 2 to the right. So that's what we are going to do over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the downwards and 2 towards the right. So this is how we are going to draw 4 downwards and 2 to the right. This is going to be my point D, which is going to be 0 and minus 3. And if you want to draw the parallelogram, this is how your parallelogram may look. Sorry, not this one. It's the other point right here, right? So this is how your parallelogram would look roughly. So it should be 0 and minus 3. Let's plug in 0 and minus 3. Moving on, the next question says Sarah has a bag containing 60 red counters, 72 blue counters, and 36 green counters. Find the ratio of red counters, blue counters, and green counters in the bag. Now, we have to simplify this in the ratio. So what we're going to say is 60 ratio 72 ratio 36. What's the simplest number that we can think of? There could be numerous numbers, but let's just go with the easier ones for now. Let's just take 6. If we take 6 as common, because it comes in all three tables, so this is going to be 6 times 10, and then 6 times 12, and then 6 times 6, right? Can this be simplified further? Yes, all these three numbers come in the table of 2. So when we simplify this further, it's going to be 5 ratio 6 ratio 3. Keep in mind, ratios are always supposed to be given in the simplest format, in the simplest form. So this is going to be 5, 6, and 3. Now moving on, it says Sunil has a bag containing yellow counters and white counters. The ratio of yellow counters to white counters is 5:8. There are 18 more white counters than yellow counters. All right, so we would say that yellow counters and white counters, the quantity of yellow counters or the ratio of yellow to white is 5:8, and we further know that there are 18 more white counters than yellow. We do not know the value of yellow, we just take it as x, so hence this value would be what? This would be 18 more than x, so it's going to be x plus 18. Now when we solve this, in order to solve this, we are going to cross multiply. When we cross multiply, what we're going to do is basically 5 times, this would be 5 times x plus 18 and is equals to 8x, and this is going to be 5x plus 90 is equals to 8x, and we are going to say 90 is equals to 8x minus 5x, and this would give us 90 is equals to 3x, and the value of x is going to be 90 over 3. That gives us 30. Now this was the yellow counters, hence this is going to be 30, and white were 18 more than yellow, so this is going to be 48. The next part says question number 10, which it states that we are supposed to work out certain mixed fractions. Now what are we going to do for this one? Now we can say that in order to solve mixed fractions, these are multiplied and these numbers are added together, so it's going to be 5 into 1 plus 2 over 5 divided by 3 over 10. When it's simplified, it gives us 7 over 5 divided by 3 over 10, and this can be simplified further by reciprocating the numbers and flipping the sign, so it's going to be 7 over 5 into 10 over 3, and we know this 5 and 10 can be simplified as 1 and 2, so it's going to be 14 over 3. Are we done? We are not done yet. Why? Because the examiner is demanding mixed fractions, and mixed fractions are supposed to be written in a nicer format. So what we're going to do is we are going to do 14 and 3. So 3 comes as 12 when it's multiplied with 4, and we're left with 2. So the answer is going to be 4 whole number 2 over 3. This 2 is my remainder and 3 is going to be the denominator. Question 11. It says shape A and shape B are drawn on the grid. Describe fully the single transformation that maps shape A onto shape B. Now, the first thing that we need to have a look is the size same? Yes, the size is same, hence it's not going to be enlargement. The base is 2, the height is 1, the height is 1, hence this is not enlargement. The second thing that I'm going to check whether or not this looks like a copy paste. This looks exactly like a copy paste. Why? Because you've just picked up this A and you've lifted it somewhere and placed it, right? You've just picked it up and you've lifted it and placed it somewhere, so it's going to be translation because this looks like that case of copy paste, right? So the first thing that we're going to write is that A onto B is going to be translation. Now translation is always answered in the vector format. Let's see how we answer this. Now we would see how far apart is this point A from B. So we select any coordinate. Let's say we select this coordinate. We would check how many units do we go to left. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 units to the left. It's going to be -5 in the x-axis. So translation using -5, and we also check it for y. So we go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we go 4 units downwards. So it's going to be -4 as well. So this is translation using -5 and -4. So that's about it. Now let's have a look at the next part. The next part states draw the image of shape A after a rotation of 90-degree clockwise about the origin. Now we are supposed to rotate shape A 90-degree clockwise. So how does this happen? Have a look. Now if I want to rotate this shape A from the origin, so that means I would draw an imaginary axis over here, which is going to be the x and y axis itself. All right, so what I'm going to do, I would consider the concepts of rotational symmetry. Now I'd say that this point from its center is 2 units towards the upwards and 1 unit to the right. So when I rotate it 90 degrees, it's going to come 2 units to the right and 1 unit downwards, right? So this is going to be one such point. What about the other point? 2 unit upwards, 3 unit to the right. So 2 unit on the right, and 3 units, it's going to be downwards. So 3 unit downwards, this is going to be the other such point, right? How am I going to draw the other coordinates? Let's see. If I want to draw the other coordinates, I'll do a similar concept. I would take this point 3 units up, 1 to the right. When I rotate it 90 degrees, it's going to be 3 units to the right, 1 unit downwards, and this is going to be the other such point. And let's draw the last point, which is going to be this one, I believe. So it's again 3 units upwards and 2 units to the right. When I rotate it 90 degrees in this direction, it's going to be 3 units to the right and 2 units downwards. So it's going to be this coordinate. This is going to be my shape. All right, this is going to be A. If the examiner doesn't mention, we are just going to say it's going to be A prime. All right, let's move on. Right. Now, it says that this person has two fair spinners, spinner A and spinner B, and it says that both spinners are spun, and then two numbers are added together as the final score. Now, we are supposed to complete this sample space give in the given diagram. Now, since the two numbers are being added, so 4 and 1 added together, that gives us 5, 6 and 1 added together, that gives us 7, and 8 and 1 added together would give us 9. When we solve this further, we can say that um, 4 and 1 added together, these are the same numbers basically. 4 and 1 added together gives us 5, 6 and 1 gives us 7, and 8 and 1 gives us 9. Now have a look at this one. 4 and 3, that would be added together to give us 4 and 3 7, 6 and 3 gives us 9, and 8 and 3 gives us what? That gives us 11. Now just find the probability that this person's score is going to be greater than 10. Let's highlight what numbers are greater than 10. Now we can say that these numbers are going to be greater than 10. How many numbers do we have? We had 4 over on this side, 4 on this side. The total number of outputs, these were going to be 16 numbers, right? So we say favorable outcomes upon the total outcomes. We are concerned about greater than 10, which means 3 outcomes upon the 16 outcomes in total. That's going to be the probability. Now the next part says, this again, the spinner was spun twice, and it says he now multiplies the two numbers to find his score. Now the two numbers were supposed to be multiplied. Find the probability that this score is greater than 30. Now I'd suggest you that you again make a possibility diagram. It may take some time, but then that is going to make work a lot easier. So what you're going to do is, you had the two scores. What were the two scores? The two scores were basically 2, 4, 6 and 8. No, he multiplied spinner 8 twice, right? He or she multiplied spinner 8 twice, so these are going to be two scores: 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8, and the same number, the same spinner being multiplied, hence 2, 4, 6 and 8, which means the square numbers, or it could be square numbers or the numbers multiplied with each other. Now since we are considered about the numbers greater than 30, let's see, will 2 and 2 give me a number greater than 30? No. Will 4 and 2? No. Will 6 and 2? That is 12, not greater than 30. This isn't going to give us greater than 30 as well, so we are just going to solve the relevant information. So 2 and 4, that is 8. 4, 4, 16. We don't need the 6 and 4, that is 24. What about 8 and 4? Yes, that gives us 32, so we would count it for now. Okay, what about 6 and 2? That gives us 12. This isn't of any use. 4 and 6, that's 24. 6 and 4 gives us 32, so we'd say 32. And 8 and 6, that would also be a number greater than, we can say, it's greater than 30, which is going to be 36, 42 and 48. This is going to be 48, and then we can say 8 and 2, that gives us 16. This is of no use. 4 and 8 is 32, and then 6 and 8, and again a number that's of um that we may consider, and then the last one is 8 and 8, 64. So how many numbers do we have which are greater than 30? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have six numbers that is going to be greater than 30. So we're going to say 6 out of 16. So you can write the answer in this format, or you can also simplify it further and give the answer in 3 upon 8, since the examiner accepts both. Question 13. Question 13 states that Thomas works in a shop. He is paid for $12 for each hour he works. He is also paid a bonus of 5% of the value of all the items he sells. Now, one day Thomas works for 5 hours. He is paid a total of $82, including his bonus. Now, what this means is he was paid 12 hours, $12 for each hour he worked. And how many hours did he work? He worked for 5 hours. So that means this is going to be 5 into 12. This is going to be his hourly wage, right? And further, he also got a bonus of 5% on the items he sold, and we are supposed to find the amount of the items that he sold, for which he got a certain bonus or commission. So what we are going to say, that is daily or hourly wage plus the 5%, that is going to be 500 over times of x, the amount that we do not know that he sold. Now this would accumulate up till $82. All right, now what we can say is that 5 into 20 5 into 12 is going to be 60, plus 0.0, or we can rather solve this later for easier working. So what we can say is this is going to be 5 over 100 times of x is equals to 82. When we solve this further, this number will be divided, so this is going to give us 5 over 100 x is equals to 82 minus 60, that gives us 22. And when we solve this further, this is going to give us x is equals to 22 into 100 over 5. Now when we want to solve, if we want to solve this, I'd suggest that convert this denominator into 10, 100 or 1000, because that makes our working easier. Now in order to convert this into 10, we need to multiply this with 2 and this with 2 as well. So this is going to be 2 into 22, 4400 upon 10, and as you can see, a much easier working to do. So the answer is going to be $440. All right, moving on. Question number 14. Now question number 14 says that A, B, C, D are points on a circle with center O, and we are supposed to solve or find the angle BCD, and we need to give a geometrical property to explain each of the steps or each of the working that we do. Now what is the additional information? It says that O is the center, and then EF is a tangent, and then angle is, this angle is 65 and the other angle is 80. Now, what angle are we supposed to find? We are supposed to find BCD, which is going to be this angle, because we can trace B, C, and D. So this is the angle that the examiner is concerned about. Now, having a look at this information, what can we see? We can see that since this is 80, we can find this angle, which is angle at the center property, and angle at the center is always double than the angle at the chord. So 80 upon 2, that gives us 40. So we are going to say that this is 40. And what is the other step? The other thing that maybe we can do is going to be alternate segment theorem. Why is that so? Because we can say that this angle 65 would be same as this angle 65 using the property alternate segment theorem, and the angle BCD would be 40 plus 65, and that has to be 105. Now, what are the reasons we are going to write? The first reason is going to be that angle DCA is going to be 40. The first statement is going to be DCA is going to be 40 degrees using the property angle at the center is always double. Angle at center is twice of angle at chords. That's going to be the first statement. Now the second statement could be that angle ABC was 65. Angle ABC was 65 degrees using the property alternate segment theorems. All right, alternate segment theorem that is found with the help of tangents. Alternate segment theorem. And the final answer BCD is going to be 105, that we got by adding the two numbers, which is going to be 65 plus 40. So that's how we get it. All right, now moving on. Graph of functions. Now this question says complete the table for y is equals to x cube minus 4x squared plus 12, and we know that we are supposed to find the value for y when the input is going to be x. All right, now this input x, when we plug it in, this is going to give us what? Let's see. It's going to be y is equals to 4 cube minus 4 square plus 12, and this 4 cube is going to be equals to 64 times 4 into 4 square, that is going to be minus 4 into 16. 4 square is 16 plus 12. Now what we know is 4 times 16 is 64, so 64 minus 64 plus 12, so we can cancel these numbers and we are left with 12. All right, now we are supposed to draw the graph of this. Now in order to draw this graph, we will have to plot the coordinates, and let's plot it real quick. Let's see. Now we are supposed to plot minus 2 and minus 12. So this is where minus 2 and minus 12 will be. Please keep in mind that you're supposed to use a cross or dot and a circle. All right, do not just use a dot. The examiner may not give you marks for this. Now the second value is going to be, my second coordinate is going to be minus 1 and 7. So minus 1 and 7 has to be plotted somewhere here in the middle, and the third one is 0 and 12. So this is where 0 and 12 is going to be. The next one is going to be 1 and 9. 1 and 9 is going to be somewhere here. The next point is going to be 2 and 4. So this is going to be 2 and 4. The next point is going to be 3 and 3. This is where 3 and 3 is going to be, and the last one is going to be 4 and 12. This is how the graph may look. All right, now we are supposed to join these coordinates, I'm pretty sure, because we're supposed to draw the graph. So let's do it real quick. So when you do that, this is how the graph may look. Now please keep in mind that this may look like, this may be a freehand drawing with a soft pencil. So try to join it nicely like this. This seems to be a bit messy. Right, I'll try to join it. Try it in one go if you can. That'll be better, but if not, this should work as well. All right. Right, this is how the graph may look. This is a bit messy, but we'll fix it real quick. Again. Anyway, it seems to be better. Now, what are we supposed to do? Let's see. Now it says use a graph to solve the equation x cubed minus 4x squared plus 12 is equals to 0. Now we need to check, is this equation exactly the same as the equation given in the question, x cubed minus 4x squared plus 12. X cubed minus 4x plus 12. Now what's the difference? Instead of this equation, we had, no, basically the whole equation was same, and that was given in the next part, and then that was supposed to be equal to 0. That means we are supposed to find the intersecting points with y is equal to 0, which is going to be the x-axis itself. Now we would have a look at the graph and we would find the intersecting coordinates, which are going to be these coordinates. Let's read these values real quick. It's going to be somewhere around minus 4 or 1 point, minus 1.4 or minus 1.5. So we just say that this value is going to be minus of 1.5. All right, we'll write this value to be minus of 1.5. Now the next part says, by drawing a suitable line on the grid, find the roots of the equation x cubed minus 4x squared plus x plus 4. Now what do we do for this part? Now we have the equation as y is equals to x cubed minus 4x squared. Now we would compare it with the equation that the examiner is given. The actual equation was y is equals to, x cubed minus 4x squared plus 12. That was given by the examiner over here. All right, and then what we're going to do is we are going to write the equation that the examiner wants us to find roots of. So we are going to write it underneath it. So it's going to be x cubed minus 4x squared plus x and plus 4, and equals to 0 is supposed to be written underneath of y. Now what we will do, we will basically be subtracting the two equations to find the resulting equation. Now y minus 0, that gives us y. X cube minus x cube will be simplified or cancelled. 4x square and 4x square will be simplified or cancelled. So we have no x over here, so no x. Minus x is going to give us what? That should be minus x, right? And then what is 12 minus 4? 12 minus 4 will give us plus of 8. That means we are supposed to draw the equation y minus x plus 8. Now if we have a look at this y minus a, y is equals to minus x plus 8, we need to understand, if we compare it to y, if we compare it with y is equals to mx plus c, we know that the y-intercept is going to be 8, which means this is going to be one such coordinate, the y-intercept, that is going to be 8, all right, at the y-axis. So this is going to be one such point for the resulting line. Now how do you find the other such coordinate? We will potentially be just assuming values. Now in order to assume values, what we're going to say is it's going to be y is equals to minus x plus 8. Oh, no, sorry, y is equals to minus x plus 8 minus of x plus 8, and just assume any value of x. Let's just say if we take x as 2, what are we going to get? If we plug in x as 2, we are going to get y is equals to minus 2 plus 8, and the answer is 6. That means we're supposed to plot 2 and 6 on the graph, and this is where 2 and 6 will be on the graph. All right, 2 and 6 somewhere here. Now we will be joining this line. Now when we join this line, this is how the line may look, and what we'll do, we will just find the intersecting points which are going to be the roots for this question. Now this is one such intersecting point, and this is the other such intersecting point, and this is the third such intersecting point, and the x-intercepts of these values are going to be the roots or the solution for this question, right? So this one, and this one. Now what are these values? Let's write it real quick. So these values are minus of 0.8, and this is 1.4, I believe, and this one is 3.4. Minus 0.8, 1.4, and 3.4. All right, we write it minus 0.8, 1.4, and 3.4. Question number 16. Question number 16 states that we are supposed to expand and simplify. Now, how do you solve these questions? Now, this is a question of surds. Now, this 3 will be multiplied with 1, and this 3 will be multiplied with this as well. So, this would give us what? This would give us 3 times 1 is 3 plus 3 times 4 is 12 root of 2. When I solve it further, now this root of 2 will be multiplied with 1, which will give me root of 2, and root of 2 multiplied with 4 root of 2. Now that is going to be interesting. Now the root of 2 multiplied with 1 would give me root of 2. There is no such difficulty. But for this part, root of 2 multiplied with 4 root of 2. This root of 2 and root of 2 would be cancelled, and we'll get 2 as the answer for this, and 4 times 2 is going to give us what? That is going to give us 8. So this is going to be 8. Now what is this going to be? 3 plus 8 is going to be 11, and 12 plus 1 root of 2 will give us 13. So it's going to be 11 plus 13 root of 2. Um, let's write it nicely. So it's going to be 11 plus 13 under root 2. Now the next part is of rationalization. Rationalization, we are supposed to rationalize this given question. Now for rationalization, what we're supposed to do is we are supposed to multiply the denominators with the conjugates. Now what are conjugates? You just flip the signs of the second number, that is root of 7, with a positive sign, but we use a negative sign with for the case of multiplication. Now 1 times 1 gives us 1, and 1 times minus 7 gives us minus 7. So it's going to be exactly the same. There is not going to be much difference. So what about the denominator? It's going to form a third identity mostly, or 90% of the time. So 1 into 1 is going to give us 1, and 1 into 7 is going to give us what? Minus root of 7, right? What is this going to give? 7 and 7, that is going to give you, or instead, if you're using the third identity, we can do it quickly. We can do it quickly using the identity, which is going to be 1 square minus root of 7 square. So it should be 1 minus root of 7 square would be minus of 7. That would give me minus 1 minus root of 7 over minus 6. Now we need to get rid of this negative sign in the denominator. It's not really nice to write it in the answer. Hence the signs at the top would flip, and this would become minus 1 plus root of 7 upon 6, and this is how we're going to write it. This is going to be the answer, right? The next question seems to be from similarity. Now this question states that triangle ABC is similar to triangle PQR. Now ABC is similar to PQR, and we are supposed to calculate PR. Now since the two, we need to understand, for the case of similarity, since this question states the two triangles are similar, we know that the ratio for corresponding lengths is same. So that means 6 and 9 ratio would be same as the ratio of 7 and this PR. So we're going to say 6 over 9 is equal to 7 over PR. And if you're supposed to calculate PR, that would be PR is equal to 7 into 9 over 6. And this can be simplified as 2 and 3. And 7 times 3 is what? That is 21 over 2. That gives us 10.5 as the answer, right? Moving on, it says the area of triangle ABC is 16. So the area for this is going to be 16, and the examiner asks the area for this, which is unknown. Let's just consider it to be x. Now the formula is a1 over a2 is equals to l1 over l2 square. So let's put it real quick. Now A1, the first area for the first shape, is going to be 16 and the second area is unknown, so we say 16 over x is equals to any corresponding length. So we take 6 and 9. For this case, it's going to be 6 over 9 whole square, and this would become 16 times 9 of square upon 6 square is equals to x. Now these would be cross multiplied after simplification, and this would give us what? This would give us 16 times of 81 over 36, and we could have done it earlier as well. This would probably give us, I'm assuming this should be 9 over 4, but let's see. Now we simplified with 4, so this is 4 times 4, this is 4 times 9, 9 ones are, this is going to be 9, 4 times 9 is what? That is going to give us 36. So the value for x is going to be 36. All right, here we go. Now the value for x is going to be 36. That is going to be my area. Question number 18 states, the diagram shows a solid cylinder and a solid hemisphere. The radius of the cylinder is equal to the radius of the hemisphere, and the volume of the cylinder is equal to the volume of hemisphere. All right. The radius is same. That means if we consider the radius over here to be r, we will also be considering it to be r. Now the examiner further states that the height is 6 and the volume is same. So we are going to form an equation with the help of volume. For cylinder, we know the volume to be, volume of cylinder is pi r square h, and the volume of sphere should be given in the formula sheet, that is 4 over 3 pi r cube. But since this is a hemisphere, we will be dividing it with 2, so volume of hemisphere would be 4 over 6 times of pi r cube. All right, now both of these volumes are same, where the height is going to be 6, so we are going to say pi times r square of 6 is equals to 4 over 6 times pi r cube. This would simplify to 2 and 3, and we can say that these values can be cancelled. Pi and pi can be cancelled, r square and cube can be cancelled, so we'll be left with what? We will be left with 6 is equals to 2 over 3 times of r, and the value for r would be 3 into 6 over 2 should be my r, and my r turns out to be 9. The value for r is 9. But is this what the examiner demanded? No, this is not what the examiner demanded. The examiner was asking to calculate the total surface area of the hemisphere, and we need to give the answer in terms of pi. How do we calculate the total surface area of the hemisphere? Now we need to understand that hemisphere was a solid case, right? So that means it has a top surface, a circular surface, and a curved surface as well, right? Now for curved surface, the formula for surface area of sphere is 4 pi r square. So the volume, so the surface area for hemisphere would be what? That would be 4 pi r square divided by 2. So we would say curved surface area of hemisphere would be 4 pi r square upon 2. This formula is given in the formula sheet, you don't need to worry. And then we also have a circle at the top, and how do we calculate the circle? That is going to be pi r square, right? Now this would give us 4 upon 2, that gives us 2, so this should give us 2 pi r square times 2 pi r square plus pi r square, that gives us 3 pi r square. And what is the value? We know this to be, we have the radius that we found out from the last part, so the total area is going to be, this was surface area. All right, the total surface area, this was the curved surface area, and this was the area of the circle, and this would turn out to be what? 3 times pi times 9 square. So this should be 3 into pi into 81, and that should be 243 pi. But the examiner wanted us to answer it in terms of pi. We won't simplify it any further, and we'll leave the answer as it is. All right, moving on to question number 19. Now question number 19 says that we are supposed to evaluate 16 power minus 3 and 4. Now since the power is negative, we will do what? We will reciprocate it to get the powers to be positive, and this would become 1 over 16 times positive 3 over 4. And when we simplify it further, what we get is we are supposed to take a root of 4 basically inside, and inside we'll have a 16. 1 over 16, and then we'll be having a cube on top of that, right? Now we know that this under root of, with basically a root of 4 and then 16 inside of that root, would give us what? That would give us 2 as the answer. How do we know? We can do prime factorization. When we do prime factorization, it's going to be 2 times 8 and then 2 times further 4, 2 and 2 and then 2 and 1. That means a 4, when we take a root of 4 and then we make a pair of 4 numbers. So do we have a pair of 4 numbers? Yes, we do have a pair of numbers, and all consisting of 2. That means this value can be written inside the root, and this will turn out to be 2, and this is going to be 1 over 2 cubed, and the final answer is going to be 1 over 8. The next question states that we are supposed to write this indices in a simpler format, and we can say that this is going to be 9 square multiplied by 3 minus half. All right, now since the two numbers are being multiplied, we need to subtract the two powers, but the bases should be same. How do you make sure the bases are same? This can be written as 3 square into square, and then this would be 3 power minus half. 3 square and square, the rule of indices says that this is going to turn out into 3 power 4 multiplied by 3 power minus half. And when we solve this further, it's going to give us what? 3 power 4 minus of half. That is going to give us 3.5 or 7 over 2. So this is going to be 3 whole numbers, 7 over 2. So base of 3 and the power being 7 over 2. Alright, so the next question states f of x is equals to ax plus 3, and we are supposed to find the inverse of that. How do you find inverse? Now we need to have a look that f of x is equals to ax plus 3. It's a very simple process where we consider this to be make the subject and replace again. So we are going to replace it with y is equal to ax plus 3, and when we make this the subject, it's going to be y minus 3 is equals to ax. We're supposed to make x the subject, and this will be y minus 3 over a is equals to what? It should be equals to x. All right, now we're supposed to replace it again, and this would turn out to be f inverse of x is equals to x minus 3 upon a, and this is how you're going to write it, x minus 3 upon a. Let's move on to the next question. The next question says it's of composite functions. This is a really nice question, and the question states that gf of x is equals to 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. But what is gf of x? Let's have a look. Now gf of x is basically a g function g x, right? G of x, that is x plus b whole square, and inside of that we're supposed to have the function f. So g f of x will become what? That will become, instead of x we are going to use ax plus 3, right? Now instead of x, what we're going to use is going to be ax plus 3. That is going to give us ax plus 3 plus b and then whole square. So basically instead of this we plugged in the function f, right? This one. Right, so what's the next step that we're supposed to do? Now there are two ways. Either you do completing square on this method and then you compare it, or you can expand this and then solve it or compare it, right? So what we're going to do, I'll do it with the second method that I just mentioned. I'll try to open it. So it's going to be ax plus 3 plus b is supposed to be multiplied with ax plus 3 plus b, and the final answer should be equivalent to this term. All right, we'll compare it towards the end. So what would this give us? We know that ax and ax would give us a square x square. Ax and 3 would give us what? That would give us plus 3ax, plus ax and b would give us what? That would give us axb. This 3 multiplied with ax would give us plus 3ax, plus 3 into 3 would give us 9, and then 3 into b would give us, that should be 3b. All right, when we solve this further, we know that b and ax would give us bax. This should be plus bax, and b into 3 would give us plus 3b, and b into b would give us b square. All right, now let's have a look. Let's compare the terms with x square. What were x squares over here? x square was supposed to be equals to 9, so we would say that 9 is supposed to be equals to a square. Like we compared the values for x square, right? So x square values, we would say that a square is equals to 9, a square is equals to 9, and the value for a would turn out to be what? The value for a would turn out to be 3, right? We can say that the value for a would be 3 for this case. Now moving on to the next part. The next part is supposed to be the value for b. How are we going to do this? Now we would compare all the values of x. Now what do we have as the values of x? We have this x, we have this x, we have this x, and we have this x. All right, so we can say that 3ax plus 3ax, that would give us 6ax. All right, so we would say 3a. So basically, if you're comparing values of x, ignore the values of x over here, just add the other numbers. So 3a plus 3a, that would give us what? We add ab's with that. So plus ab, plus of ab, and plus of ab as well, this one. So plus of ab, this would give us what? This should be equivalent to the value 24. Now what am I doing? For here, over here, we compared values of x square. We compared values of x square for this case, and over here we're comparing all the values of x. All right, now when we solve this, we have the value of a already. We'll plug it in later. So 3a plus 3a, that gives us 6a plus 2ab is equals to 24. We know the values to be 6 times 3 plus 2 times 3 times b is equals to 24, and this is going to be 18 plus 6b is equals to 24, and this is going to be 6b is equals to 24 minus 18, and this is going to give us what? This is going to give us 6b minus 6b is equals to 6, and value for b is going to be what? B is going to be 6 over 6. That should give us 1. This is how we are going to solve this question. Let's solve question number 21. Question number 21 says that OPQR is a parallelogram. OP is equals to A and QR is equals to OP is equals to A and OR is equals to 2B, sorry. And M is going to be the midpoint of QR. Alright, if M is the midpoint, we already know these values. Let's see what the examiner demands. It says that N is a point that PQ and basically M is a point on PQ and lies on the line PQ, and PQ ratio PN ratio NQ is 1 over 3, 1 ratio 3. So this is going to be 1 and 3. So this ratio PN compared to this NQ is going to be 1 ratio 3. All right. So what does the examiner demand? The examiner wants us to find the value of MQ. Now what is going to be MQ? Let's see. This is what the examiner demands. We are supposed to find this vector from starting from M up until Q. We know that these were parallel vectors. The two lines were parallel because of the parallelogram. So OP and RQ is going to be A as well. And since M was the midpoint, so it's going to be half of A. Let's solve NM. Now, if you want to solve NM, this is what the examiner is demanding. It's going to be something like this. This is the vector that the examiner is demanding, all right? The vector NM in this direction. Now, we need to understand that since OR was 2B, so this whole vector is supposed to be 2B as well. But what about this portion NQ? So we would say NM is equals to, it's going to be NQ plus QM, all right? NM is equals to NQ plus of QM. And what's the value of NQ? NQ is basically 3 out of the total 4 portions. So we can say this is going to be 3 over 4 of 2b, because the whole vector PQ was 2b, all right, same as OR. And then what's going to be QM? QM is going to be negative of half A because it's in the other direction. So what we are going to say? We are going to say it's going to be minus of half A. So when we solve this further, this can be simplified as 1 and 2, and this is going to give us 3 over 2b minus of half of this was A. All right, so it's going to be 3 over 2b minus of half of A. The next part says line OP is extended to point X. Now OP is extended to point X and M and X is a straight line as well. All right, so it says that M and X, this line M and X, if I draw this line M and X and this line OPX, they both extend to form the point X. This is what the examiner says. All right. Now it further says find the position vector of X. That means the examiner wants us to find OX. Now position vector means in terms of O. That means examiner wants us to find the value of OX. Now, how can we find OX? Let's see. Now, in order to find OX, maybe we first need to find the value of PX. Can we do that? Yes. Now, there are numerous ways. Either you say that OX is equals to OR, RM, and MX, and then you compare it using the concept of scalar multiples, or the second method is the easier one, which you can say is going to be the concept of similarity, where you're going to say that the first case, now you may be seeing two similar vectors. What is that? That is going to be X, P, N, and this is Q and M. Now, how are these similar? Because these were parallel lines because of parallelogram. So, and these angles were same as well. So this forms the identity of um, similar triangles, right? Not parallel vectors. Yeah, these are parallel vectors, but at the same time, it's going to be a concept of similar triangles. Now, what we are going to say that if this length was 1 and this length was 3, because the ratio was given as 1 and 3, that means the ratio for this px and mq is going to change in a similar manner as well. So what are we going to say? We are going to say 1 over 3 is going to be equal, so that means the ratio of these two lengths should be equals to the ratio of px and qm. All right, px and qm. Now, do we have any values? Let's see. We have the value of qm to be half of a, correct? Now, the value of this was half of a. So what we'll say, we would say 1 over 3, and this was supposed to be half of a, and this would be multiplied over here. This would give us as what? The value for px will be, that is going to be 1 over 6 of a. Now, since px is 1 over 6 of a, which is going to be this vector, px is 1 over 6 of a, what is going to be ox? Now, ox will be op plus px, and op was what? That was a plus 1 over 6 of a, and the final answer is going to be that is going to be, you take the LCM, you make it the common denominator, or you cross multiply and multiply the denominators with each other, and that turns out to be 6 plus 1, that is going to be 7 over 6 of a. Just take the LCM of this. All right, question number 22 states that Aid and Maha make cards. One day they each work for 4 hours making cards. Aid takes X minutes to make one card, and hence we are supposed to show that the number of card Aid makes in 4 hours is given by 240 over X. So what we know is X minutes were taken to make one card, hence 4 hours would mean what? That would mean 4 hours into 60 minutes, that is 240 minutes would mean Y number of cards, right? Now we are supposed to find y, the number of cards, so we'll make it the subject by cross multiplying these, and what we're going to get is going to be x, so y is equals to 240, and we're supposed to calculate y, so y is going to be 240 over x for this case. It's pretty simple. Now the second part says Maha takes x minutes less than 8 to make one card. All right, so for Aid, the time consumed for each card was what? That was x. So for Maha, what is it going to be? For Maha, it's going to be x minus 2. It further states that Maha and Aid make a total of 70 cards in 4 hours. All right, so what we are supposed to understand, that the number of cards made by Aid in 4 hours plus the number of cards made by Maha in 4 hours, that should sum up to 70. Now we already have the number of cards that Aid made. All right, so we are going to add that with the number of cards that Maha would make. So what we are going to say is 240 over x plus 240 over x minus 2. Why is that so? Because the number of cards made by Aid was 240 over x, but the time consumed by Maha was what? That was x minus 2. So this is Aid and this is Maha. All right, and when we add these together, this should give us what? This value should be equivalent to 70. So we would now be simplifying this. When we simplify this, we need to cross multiply or take the LCM and multiply the denominators together. So what this becomes is, this would be 240 times x minus 2 plus of 240x over x times x minus 2 should be equivalent to 70. When we solve this further, it's going to be 240x minus 480. So it's going to be 240x minus 480 plus 240x upon x times x minus 2 equals to 70. So this number should be multiplied on the other side. So when this multiplies, what is going to happen? So 240 plus 240, that should give us what? That should give us 480x, all right, minus 480 of this number, and that should be equivalent to 70x times x minus 2. A further simplification would result in so we move all the numbers on one side, but before that we open it on the right hand side. So it's going to be 480x minus 480 is equal to 70x square minus of 140, and then we move the numbers on one side. It's going to be 70x square. So 70x multiplied by this would be 140x. Apologies. All right, so this is going to be 70x square minus of 140x, minus of 480x from the left hand side, and plus of 480 from the left hand side as well. So this is what we're going to get. This should be equivalent to 0. When we add these together, what would this give us? This should be 70x square minus and minus, so that would be 520 and 620. So this should be minus 620x plus 480 is equals to 0. Did we get a similar answer? Let's see. It's not exactly same, but we can further process this to get in this format. Now we need to understand that over here the x square had 7, the coefficient was 7, whereas my coefficient is 70. So how do I make this 70 into 7? So I basically need to divide it with 10 or take 10 as common. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 10 as common from this whole thing, and this would become what? This would eventually become 10. When you take 10 as common, it's going to become 7x square, and when you take 10 as common, it's going to become minus 62 of x. 7x square minus 62 of x, and this 480 will become 48. So this becomes plus 48 is equals to 0. So this is 10 can be divided on the other side, so this value is basically cancelled, and what we get is the final equation is going to be 7x square minus 62x plus 48 is equals to 0, and you're going to say hence shown. All right, let's move on to the next part. The next question says solve by factorization 7x square minus 62x plus 48, and this is for 3 marks in non-calculator version. This is going to be tricky. Why? Because the number that we're going to get is probably going to be very huge. So what we are supposed to do is we are going to multiply 7 with 48, and let's see what number do we get. So when we try 48 times 7, so this has to be 56. All right, so this would be 56. 7 8 is 56, and 7 times 4 is what? That is 28. But that 28 will be added with 5, so that gives us 336, 33, right? So that's going to be 336. Now what that means is 7 times of 48 gives us 336, and now we need to find the factors of 336, which is going to be 1 into 336, and then 2 into what? 2 into we'll see. So it's going to be 2 into 168, I believe. So it's going to be 2 into 168, and in the similar order you're going to find all the factors or tables of that, right? And then what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to check whether or not these numbers combined, either added or subtracted together, will that give me 62. So what we need to do is we need to check whether or not we get 62 when we add such numbers together after we find all the factors. And then there's going to be one such factor that is probably going to be 6 into 56, I believe. All right. So this is one other factor of 336. So we know that the 6 into 56, this number, when you actually subtract both of these numbers, you're going to get minus of 62. So we're going to write it over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 7x square minus 6 minus 56 plus 48 is equals to 0. But keep in mind that these factors are supposed to be written along with the variable that you're using. So it's going to be x and x. All right. Now, what we're supposed to do is we are supposed to simplify further. And how are we going to simplify? We'll see by probably taking a common. Can we take anything as common over here? No, we can't take as common. So what we're going to do is we are going to say that we take 1 as common forcefully, and we'll be left with, actually we'll take 1x as common because both of these had x, and we'll be left with what? We'll be left with 7x minus 6. And over here, what can we take as common? We'll have to see. We will be taking 8 as common because both of these numbers come in the table of 8. So when we take 8 as common, so it has to be minus 8. So both of these numbers turn out to be, the first number turns out to be positive and the second number turns out to be negative, so that both the brackets are same eventually. So when we take minus 8 as common, we will be left with 7x and plus or minus of, actually that's going to be minus of 6, and this should be equals to 0. Now we will see, do we have both bracket exactly the same? Yes, that is the case. Hence it's going to be 1x minus 8 and 7x minus 6 is equals to 0. One of these brackets we'll be writing it once because both the brackets are same, and the values outside the bracket will be written once. So what we can say is that either x minus 8 is going to be equals to 0 or 7x minus 6 is going to be equals to 0, and the value for x is going to be what? That is going to be 8, and the value for this is going to be x is equals to 6 over 7. So that's what we are going to do. Now it says work out the number of cards Maha makes in 1 hour. Let's see. Now we had the value for Maha, the amount of cards she made in 4 hours, I believe, right? So this was the amount of cards she made in 4 hours, which was supposed to be 240 over x minus 2. So for 4 hours, we know that she made 240 over x minus 2. So if I plug in the value of x, I'm going to get the number of cards for 4 hours. But we need to understand that we have two values of x. Which value of x am I going to plug in? If I plug in 6 over 7, so that means we are going to get a negative denominator, and the number of cards is going to turn out to be negative as well, which does not seem to be correct. That doesn't seem to make sense. So we will reject this value for the part D, and we'll only be plugging in 8 for this case. So it's going to be what? It's going to be 240 over 8 minus 2. That is going to give us 240 over 6. That is going to give us what? That is going to give us 40 number of cards, 40 cards in 4 hours. So how many cards is she going to make in 1 hour? It's obviously going to be divided by 4. So we divided it 4 and we get the answer is 10 cards each hour. So the answer is going to be 10 for this case. This seems to be the last question, I believe. Yes, it is. Now, question number 23 says the diagram shows a square based pyramid. X is the center of the square base. So this X is basically the center of the square base, and it further states that vertex E is vertically above X. That means this point is vertically above X. All right. And this value is supposed to be 7. Now it further says that the perpendicular height of the triangle BEC is going to be what? It's going to be 11. So what is the perpendicular height of BEC? What is BEC? Let's figure that out. So this triangle is BEC. Now what's the height for this case? The perpendicular height, all right? Now the perpendicular height is going to be drawn in this manner at 90 degrees. So this height is supposed to be what? This height is supposed to be 11. So if I draw this nicely, this is how it's going to look. So if I draw this nicely, what the examiner means is that this part is going to be 7 and this part is going to be 11. So 11 and 7. Now it says that we need to work out the length of the base of the pyramid, right? Now we had a square base and we're supposed to calculate the length of the base of the pyramid, which is, let's just say, this length, right? We're supposed to calculate AB because this was square, so AB is also equals to BC, whatever we consider it. Now, since this was a square base and x was the midpoint, now we can say that this dimension is going to be exactly half of AB. So what we are going to say, we are going to name this as half of AB. So it's going to be AB over 2. And since this point was vertically above x, so it's going to be at 90 degrees. So we can probably form a right angle triangle and can apply the technique of Pythagoras theorem, where this value is going to be 11, this value is going to be 7, and this value is going to be AB over 2, the whole length over 2. Now, what we can say is that since this turns out to be right angle triangle with all three lengths probably known, or where AB is unknown actually, so what we can say is pi h square is equals to h square is equals to p square plus b square, where the value of h is going to be 11 square is equals to 7 square plus ab over 2 whole square. When we simplify this 11 square is going to give us 121 is equals to 49 plus ab square over 4. So we further solve this, and what we're going to get is 121 minus 49 is equals to AB square over 4. So what is 121 minus 49? That is 72, I believe. 72 is equals to AB square over 4. We're supposed to calculate a base length, so we're supposed to find AB. So we make it the subject. And what we're going to say is that 4 will be multiplied on this side. So this becomes 4 into 72 is equals to AB square. And the value for AB is going to be what? That is going to be square root of 4 into 72. Now, the examiner wanted us to answer it in the SERT format. Alright, so what I'm going to do is we can write this in a pair format in terms of a product of prime factors. And what we can say that this 4 can be written as what? AB is equals to, this 4 can be written as 2 square into, and then we simplify 72 in terms of prime factors, which is going to be 72 divided by 2 as 36, further divided by 2 it would give us 18, further divided by 2 it would give us 9, and then further divided by 3 that gives us 3, and by 3 that gives us 1. So that means it's again 2 square, 3 square, and a lone 2. So what that would mean is it's going to be 2 square into 2 into 3 square. Now we know when we're talking about square roots, so all of the pairs come outside and the stuck lone pairs will remain inside the root. So what this becomes will basically be AB is equals to 2 into 2 into 3 and root of 2. And this would be AB is equals to 2, 2, 4, 4, 3, 12, 4, 3, 12. So it's going to be 12 root of 2. That's going to be your answer for AB in terms of sets format. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the solution of this, and I hope to see you again. Take care. Bye bye.